Hello, and welcome to my channel. This is Moumita, and I share your things as I learn, as I experience, all things human. And so today, let's talk about field research. So, what is field research, and why should you even consider doing one? Let's discuss. So, a field research is actually a broad list of research that is done on the field. When you want to study something or someone mandatorily in their own habitat or in their own space, now that comes under a field research, and this method gives us a qualitative kind of data. Depending on how do you want to perform it, there can be different types of field research. One can be just observing, so you just go to a place, you just observe the people around them. You also observe the environment, the habitat, the society, and the different conditions, say the weather condition, the time of the day, is it a festive season or not. So all these things actually influence the people are in that environment, and the people also influence the environment. And this is the specialty of the field research, that unlike lab research, here you can actually observe the environment, right? What is the gap between them? How can you possibly fill it? This actually opens up scope for new raw data that is away from your desk, right, in the natural environment. Now, one thing to point out is people here actually do not know that you're observing them, right? So this is your chance to get the raw data directly from the place. But you just have to make sure that you're interpreting it properly, you're observing it properly, you're taking back with you exactly what the data wants to say. So there's no biases, there's no misinterpretations, and that you need to take care. Otherwise, this would be the rawest data that you'll yourself witness. Okay. Now the next one, the second one is observation and interviews. So the contextual inquiries, right? So you can observe and then ask follow-up questions as required, or you can take interviews and then observe as you talk simultaneously as you want. So, say that you have a set of questions or topics on your mind about which you would want to know more, and hence you ask a certain questions. As you ask the questions, you also note what they say and you observe their behavior, that they do consciously as well as subconsciously, different patterns, as they say, and you will be able to understand a lot from how they behave when they are saying, right? But one thing here is we can focus more on observing here rather than just talking, because talking can be done in lab research as well, right? So here, focus a little more on the observing. Anytime, if even if they're talking to you, not talking to you, observe them. You can carry with you a little structured question, a little semi-structured question, maybe completely open-ended non-structured questions as well, as your research would require. So here you can actually understand the natural instances and connect the dot between the environment and the participant. Okay. Now the third kind of category that can be is you actually decide to spend time and live with the participant to understand and observe them. Ethnography. This is usually a time consuming process, say from days to months, right? Imagine that you decide to spend 1 month behind participant A under certain conditions B, and you relocate to the place. Now you observe how they prepare for their office and how they travel. Say during the travel, what are the pains in the process, what is actually the process looks like, what is the gain, right? And then you actually try to collect every tiny detail needed, trying to link the participants behavior, the actions, the wants, the needs, the thoughts they have, pains and gains in the process and the environment, and then you try to link how these two actually influence each other. You be on the spot, you try to bridge the gap, the actual solution that can help, right? This takes a long time and often it takes a lot of resources, since if you have to relocate to the participants location, you have to take care of everything, your food, your travel, the time as well that's going, so it's a little resource consuming. Now the fourth kind of category is self-reported data or diary studies. This is similar to ethnography in the sense that you get participants' actual behavior in the natural habitat or in context to some conditions, say societal conditions, environmental, cultural, and all those stuff. But you don't have to spend your days and months in their natural habitat, so you don't have to relocate. Rather, what happens is, say you just give your diary to some participants. Okay, you set your expectations and you give certain instructions. Say maybe in a day you have to log in your details in the morning and in the night, or in the morning. So certain kind of expectations and instructions you give prior to whatever you start, right? Then they enter the general log, like what they are doing, why they are doing, how they are doing, how they're feeling about it. Every day they enter at a certain particular time. Now, take an example. So maybe you want to study the behavior of of a certain kind of participant for the entire month of December. You want to see how, as Christmas approaches, their behavior changes, right? So, say how their routine changes, how their needs, wants, even desires change, and all these stuff. Also, maybe during that time you also want to understand how the transportation is affected, right? And so due to a societal or a cultural thing, transportation is getting affected, but due to that transportation, again the participants are getting affected. So it's like a cycle, and you want to understand that for the entire month. You can't stay with them, so you give them a diary to log in their information every day. Or say you want to study for a period of time how your product is doing in the market. So you give them your product and you don't guide them, right? So in a lab study you actually guide them when they are stuck. You give them a set of instruction or certain set of tasks that they have to follow. But when you give them here your product, you just ask them to use it. Now they log in what they actually use, what they like, what they didn't like. Okay, how did they overcome problems, or if they're stuck somewhere, how did they overcome it themselves, did they take help, and all those stuff. Now, a thing to notice, oftentimes now people say nice things just to be nice or just to pretend that they know everything. So that you need to understand, you need to cross question, maybe you need to check on that. And second thing is, a lot of times when you'll get the diary, you'll get very vague questions answers. So say they just answer questions like yes, no, and yeah, I did it, but then they don't explain you how they did it. And so probably you have to go and check on that. And another very important point just to mention over here is that you have to be really careful what kind of questions you're asking, because okay, if the questions are very long and then you're expecting them to fill the diary twice a day, it's going to be like you're giving them an add-on task, right? They take it as a task and then they'll end up maybe just giving vague answers to your questions. And they won't be that interested in that. Maybe they had a very long day and then now you expect them to fill your diary. So you need to see how frequently you are asking them to fill, or what kind of questions you're giving them to fill, right? Also, maybe if you say once a day, understand that if you say them at the end of the day, maybe they might forget what they did the entire day. Okay, and that might cause missing out on some data they could have given otherwise, right? So you need to plan like that, what suits the answers that you would expect. Okay, now participants interview can be for a few hours a day to say repetitive interviews for more than a day over a time interval. Also, the method or the interview structure can be structured, can be semi-structured, can be non-structured or unstructured, depending on how general or broad or say to the point you want your goal to be. Interviews can be taken single person at a time or in groups, that is say focus groups. It all depends on what do you want to understand, what do you want to find out, and what is the most beneficial way for you, keeping your use case in mind, keeping your goals in mind. In case of observation, always remember to observe both the participant as well as environment, because this is the benefit of a field research, right? You can connect the dots in the environment, staying in the environment, between the environment and the participant, how they influence each other. Let's take an example, okay? So say your participants use vehicles and cause pollution, or pollution affects the health of the participants. Say in your observation you saw that a participant wears a certain kind of clothing regularly, but there can be other reasons to it, right? There can be a society, like the people around in her neighborhood, her workplace, or the culture, right? Their beliefs, their sentiments, or any other aspects like that, and she might have a different opinion on what she's wearing. and can have different likings, and maybe we judged her in a different way just by observing her, and so on. Alright then. Now, after discussing and understanding what is a field research, what are the data that we get, and what are the types of it, now let's understand what kind of resources are needed to conduct it, right? So, what are the pros, the cons, the benefits on your research that you're doing on your product and on your business, and compare it with all the alternatives that you have that give you similar kind of data. Let's understand now. So there can be two things that you can consider, right? First is what exactly is your research topic, or what exactly is your research purpose. And secondly is what resources are available at present. First, what exactly is your research topic, and say or say your research purpose, right? First is what topic or points do you want to find out or understand? What kind of data will it require? What kind of people will I need, and where will I find them? What methods would give me exact kind of data that I need? In which format getting those data would be the most beneficial for me to now understand, analyze later in each and every step? How will impact the business, the product, the research that you're working on, right? Will it impact positively? Will it impact negatively? And how exactly? So understand all these. Second, as I said, what resources are available at present, right? So budget. Now if you consider field research, then it can be a little costlier. You have to consider your transportation, your food, your arrangement, all those stuff. So yes, that. Second is what, how much bandwidth do you exactly have? So can you spend hours or days or even months behind one particular research or maybe one particular persona? You need to think all of that. So see how these points discussed in this video actually impact one another, and then take your decision. Alright then. Now, before spending your time and money and efforts in field research, let's understand the pros of it. Right? So first, we do not make them do any structured, predefined or guided task. Rather, they do their own task as required on their own and in their natural habitat. Hence, we get the data in the rawest form. This helps us fill the gap between the environment and the participants, and also see how they influence each other. Then the data that you get is so wide that you can answer to your hypothesis. You can actually see how the existing theory works in real life, and you can link them together in the real setup. You can discover new facts, something that people did not know before. And if you can pick up a topic and get as narrow and narrower into it as you want, or you can ideate and broaden your thought as you want sitting in the environment. You will exactly know what are the next steps that you can take, hypothesis to be drawn from here, or what are the next research things that are needed, or maybe some future research scopes. You can directly observe the users, the participants, or say the customer persona basically in their natural habitat, and how exactly they use your product, right? And hence it is a very very beneficial thing to know the ground reality of how your product stands in a particular market. You can study live about the different cultures, the different society, environment, etc. that you witness. Okay, but wait a minute. If this method is so magical, why don't we use it always? So, what are the cons of it? Firstly, since we get the data from direct conversation or direct observation, you need to be really, really, really careful that you interpret and analyze it correctly. Otherwise, you're going to take home all wrongly misinterpreted data, right? Second, it can be really expensive. So, say the traveling cost, the planning, the food, relocation cost basically. So, you need to define and be really sure of how long do you want to conduct it. It really depends on that. Third is it is time consuming. So, are you willing to give your days or months behind, you know, this particular research or this particular persona? Fourth, the data you collected actually depends on the area, the specific time you conducted in, okay, and all other predefined factors. So you cannot use it for rest of the cases. So you have to be very sure about the location, persona, the time period, everything that you want to predefine. So think properly before you start the research to avoid wasting time later. So yeah, that's it for the video, guys. I really hope through all the points I discussed, I can help you make your decision better. Is the field research the right method for you? Keeping all your current conditions in mind, let's think about it. Also, if you want to know today's discussion, I've done it for you. You'll find the article in the description below. And with further discussion on field research and more such topics, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.